Hey guys, this is Nixie. My computer made a little weird noise. Hey guys, this is Nixie Phoenix, and today I want to talk about um, what ego death really is, what having a death ego really is, um, and the experiences you'll have about it, with it. So I'm not going to talk about psychedelics anymore. I personally I have done both experiences that living through it, living through the dark night of my soul, and psychedelics. Um, and if anything, the psychedelics tried to put ego onto me. Um, it was also because of my environment as well. But okay, if you are going to take um, psychedelics for spiritual reasons only, only ever do it in a actual Native American or South American tribal indigenous area, because there is not a single area you can do it right, um, and just your regular hometown area. Anyway, we're not gonna get into that anymore. I just don't want to talk about it. Don't want to talk about it. Just a lot of bad memories about it involved in it. And that's because a lot of these people were very in their ego. People. Um, very in their ego. I mean, very. I'm not just like, oh, regular ego people, but no, like ego, like narcissistic, egotistical ego people, abusive, bad people, bad, toxic people. Um, and these people, these are like the trendy, fad, kind of cutesy, like aesthetic spiritual people. Um, they do it for show. They do drugs for show and to fit in. Um, and they will say how it's spiritual benefits of it and stuff, but really what they're doing it for is to fit in into a toxic community. Um, and they will use spiritual beliefs to excuse it. And they will actually use those things to further their agenda. And yeah, spiritual things are easily taken and used for those things. But the actual inherent truths of those beliefs aren't that. That doesn't mean that the spiritual belief itself is bad. It's just that the people using it and abusing it is bad. Also, though, not really bad. They're just like kind of blinded by their ego, by the conditioning. Um, and yeah, that's part of it. When you do have an ego death, you don't really fully see things as black and white like you maybe used to. I don't remember a time when I did. There might be a time when I was a younger child. I did. But for the most part, I was always like extremely very spiritual, very well, like less of an ego than most people. Um, and so I want to talk about my experiences. I have this in the document. So I, because I never considered drugs purely bad because of that spiritual it's always about how you used it. I talked about that in my last video. Like, I used it a certain way, and it really is. A lot of things are really about who you're around and who you. And I, for one, I don't see myself ever using these certain things again. Um, I really like that. Maybe there was a time, maybe there was a time in my life when it was necessary to use certain things for the lesson that was there in my life. Um, but I have sat with many people who refuse to meditate. They refuse to, and then they'll make excuses about why. They refuse to read or study or do any kind of spiritual practices, but then they're smoking weed and they're taking LSD and mushrooms and saying they're spiritual because they have wall tapestries and spiritual jewelry on uh, they follow pagan spiritual groups on Facebook. Um, and they watch YouTube. They watch tarot YouTubers. Um, I really sat with these people and I thought, every part of them wants to be spiritual, and I sat with them. I did sit with them for a while. I worked with them and I was patient with them. But once you're abused by your own students and talked down to and belittled so much, there's only so much you can really just take with a smile before you say, okay, that's enough. I'm not going to be here anymore. Not get angry or not accuse them or not hurt their feelings or whatever, but just be like, okay, nope, this isn't meant to be. I stopped. They don't, want the actual true, they don't want to be spiritual end. They just they want to be kind of that spiritual person that sits at the pope, that sits in the church, back of the church aisle, right? And they just fuck around and gossip and laugh while the priest is going on about social things. That's kind of how I see them, and uh, um, an analogy for how they are in spirituality. And they'll call themselves, those people call themselves Christians, but I, I don't know. So there was some people in my past who saw my ego deafness, right? And they really triggered them. Really, they did not like it. They did not like it. And that will happen. That's a part of it. There will be people who are very sensitive and very aware of the fact that your ego is dead, and they will be really upset about it. They will try to be like, well, they'll find any way to be like, well, I'm better. I'm actually better. And they'll make any excuse they can. At first they'll go on saying that your ego isn't really dead, that you need to do more to, um, and the shirt, and you're not egotistical, but you're not, you don't hate yourself either, right? And they'll say like, because you don't hate yourself, you're not spiritual enough, or they'll find anything they can use against you, because they are triggered themselves, um, and that is a very common thing that will happen. Um, and then they'll make things like, well, you have to have an ego, you have to have an ego. And the fact that you don't have an ego is why, you're bad. And, you're less than me, blah, blah, blah. So when you're when you experience an ego death, you will lose interest in external validation. You won't dress for other people anymore. You will dress for you. You won't dress for, you know, to get compliments or to, you won't dress like a hobo, but you won't really be anxious or, I'm not saying that, clothing and makeup is bad or, unspiritual, but you won't have like a really like overwhelming urge or desire to, oh my God, I don't look good today, so, um, or, I have to dress this way. Really want to dress this way, but I have to dress this way because society says, and um, that's how I want to get most acceptance, you will lose interest in status. Just saying, you use this, with people. You don't really feel like you have to be better than anybody else. You're just me, and they're them. Um, like I said, appearances, shallow, surface level appearances, or also surface level things, right? So that's why I don't really have the patience or really interest or desire. I mean, I have the patience, but I don't really have the desire or interest in books that talk more about have surface level relationships. I do like spicy things, I really do. But I don't have any desire or interest for surface level relationships in real life or in books, reading about it, or in media or anything. Um, you don't care about being right. You just tell your truth, and people argue with it. I mean, okay. I know my truth. I don't have to prove it for it to be right. Um, you don't chase power, praise, or performative spirituality. I mean, you're still performing, right? You're still doing the things, but you're not looking on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube and be like, oh man, I have to do this. I have to do this exactly just like that. No, you're going to the altar, altar, and you're doing you're um you don't really worried about how does this look. You're more worried about the actual experience you're getting from it, the relationship you're getting from it, the emotions and um, the action of it, the doing of it. You're not trying to look enlightened, okay? You're not saying, well, what is this person, Oh, I saw some comments on a video that said, oh, if you wear makeup, you're not enlightened, you're not spiritual. That's another unenlightened thing to say, because it's not about looking a certain way. Um, when I was younger, uh, I could barely tell what people looked like on the surface. Um, I mean, my brain didn't function like that. I wasn't really aware of physical surface level things. I just wasn't aware of it. It was like a secondary sensory. Like my third eye was more open than my physical eyes almost or something. And now I do have kind of like tried to like force myself to see more physical, external, surface level things because there are some things like race and gender and things like that people do want to. But anyway, but like for the most part, you're not like seeing external. You're not saying, well, this person is this, and you're saying, oh, this person, or um, you're more observant of their actions and their personality, I guess. How loving and kind they are, or how, oh man, she's abusive, she's a beat the shit out of that baby, or is saying these words about these groups of people, or they're not really seeing like who, what she looks like, what she wears, or what her hair looks like, or whatever. Um, so you're just living in stillness. You got just this calmness, this stillness, this peace with your knowing, peace with the world. Um, and a lot of people don't like that. A lot of people like not like it would be more unconscious too. It's just that something doesn't look right about you. You're not popular or caring about trends, because you're not interested in being popular. I mean, you might have a lot of friends, you might have like coincident friends and people who be like, hey, they'll know you and stuff. Um, but you're not really interested in like, or you don't really care like how they feel about you or your status among them or their validation of you. Um, not that I mean, because being popular, right, is sometimes a good sign of a person's personality sometimes. Um, and what I mean by that, like, there's a popularity where like people are just like, mean girls, right? There's that popularity, and there's a popularity of like, you just have a lot of acquaintances. They might come and say, hey, Marissa. I gotta love that. I gotta love that sometimes. I'm just known. I'm known, and people, for the most part, like me. You know, they don't have anything against me. They don't have um, and they'll see you as sometimes they'll see you as naive, or because of the fact that how you're so peaceful. A lot of people see that as naive or weak, right? So might see you as weak or naive, and also um, but saying that, some people who have ego, right? They will be upset about that. They'd be like, well, I gotta change what I'm doing then to make sure I don't look naive or weak. But people who don't have an ego or have an ego death, they're like, well, I know I'm not weak. I know I'm not naive, and I know I'm not weak. I've been through a lot of experiences. I've gone through a lot to get here, so I know I'm not weak. I know I'm not naive. Um, and you don't need to prove to other people. You don't need to change that and become naive and weak to prove that you're not. And that's always been like confusing to me. It's like to prove to people that you're not something, you have to become it, or to prove to someone you're something, you have to prove you're not something. You have to. I mean, you have to not like you have to like stop being real about it, like what you really are on the inside. You have to like stop being that, and then like get to put on the outside and be pretentious about it to actually be believed. And I'm just like, that's weird. That's so stupid. um, you know. So that's what I've noticed a lot about at least people who are not really spiritual, more like externally or trendy, faddish, aesthetically spiritual. Um, I have had people uh, use words that never didn't actually really identify me, but they used them because they knew it would hurt me. Um, they knew that it would is like a opposite of what I am, and so it would make me like, what? Why would you say that? And it would make me feel like I'm doing something wrong. Things like low vibration, delusional, etc. Um, they also again they mistake your humility for weakness. They mistake your quiet and stillness for ignorance, and they mistake your clarity for madness. Um, but the truth is, you have nothing to prove, and that is because your soul already remembers who you really are underneath all of that ego. Um, you will make people uncomfortable by just being If you show up with no mask, no ego, no agenda, that's terrifying to those still clinging to identity, image, and control. They had to reject you to protect themselves. Because your very presence shows them what they were pretending to be. And they realized that you weren't pretending, you were actually something that they wanted to be, what they were pretending to be on the outside. People like us, we are here to walk the path of the soul, not trendiness, not performative enlightenment, not spiritual capitalism. We don't need to belong to these groups. We are already one with the divine. And so that is all I have to say about that today. Thank you for watching, and blessed be.